everyone. Thank God for a brand new day. Happy Thursday. I pray that all of you are doing well on this beautiful, blessed Thursday that the Lord has given us. We had got rain here earlier today, but I believe it stopped now. It looks like it's just cloudy and maybe the sun is trying to come out a little bit. So I pray that all of you are well on this beautiful Thursday. Thank God for his new grace and his new mercy today. We just don't want to take life for granted because remember, somebody did not wake up today, right? Somebody did not wake up today. So we don't want to take our life for granted. God is so good. God is so good. I thank God for just a productive, blessed Thursday. Thank God for safe travels as I went to the rec center today. Thank God for strength to walk my 4 miles today. I just thank God for just helping me to just be consistent, moving my body this year. Like all since February, I've been going to the rec center, and February the 5th, I've been going all since February the 5th, and I missed 1 week in March. And I missed last week. I didn't go to the rec center last week, but I still exercised last week. So, the week I didn't exercise was 1 week in March where I didn't go to the rec or walk outside. But all since February the 5th, outside of that 1 week in March, I've been consistently moving my body at least 2 to 3 days a week, and sometimes 4 days a week. So it just all depends. But this week was 2 days because I did Tuesday for 1 hour, which was 4 miles, and then I did today for 1 hour, which was 4 miles. So I thank God for just giving me the strength, right? Thank God for giving me the strength to walk today. It was just such a blessing, and I just thank God for strength. God is just so good. I pray that all of you are well, enjoying your Thursday. Hey, Sasha. Hey, how are you? It's been a minute. I pray that you're doing well on this beautiful Thursday. Hi, Victor. Happy Thursday. I pray that you're well. God bless all of you that are coming on. Feel free to share what you're grateful for. If you have like a testimony you want to share, this is Testimony Thursday. So, this is something new I'm doing, because I know I do Motivational Monday. So, now I'm adding Testimony Thursday for Thursday. So, if you have a testimony you want to share, whether it's big, small, it don't matter. If you feel led to share, I definitely encourage you to share. It may help someone. It may encourage someone, right? We all could use encouragement, right? And you're welcome, Victor. We all could use encouragement. God is just so good, and I'm just so grateful to God. Like, even if I had a million tongues, wouldn't be enough to thank God. But so what I want to share today, so I guess this is this is a testimony. So pretty much this may be a little testimony, but I'm just grateful. Like, I don't take nothing lightly or for granted, right? So I thank God. So last month in June, I had applied for cooling assistance, and cooling assistance is like a program that helps you, well, pretty much helps you pay your light bill, pretty much, right? Pay your light bill for you. And so I had applied for that, right? I had applied for that, and I did get approved. That God allowed me to get approved for $400 to go towards my light bill. It's only used for the light bill, right? You cannot use it for nothing else. So what happened was the light bill. One of my light bills was due June the 30th, and it was like $148 plus tax, right? It covered that bill. So the next bill came, and it was like, what, 262 or something? It was like 262 or something like that. And so the cooling assistance covered the majority of that bill, leaving me with a balance of $11.03. So that's two light bills that God allowed them to cover, because those two light bills put together was $411.03, and it covered 400, it covered 400, and it left me with a balance of $11.03 that I went on and paid this week, right? Because I had it, like $11.03. You can go ahead and pay that, right? So I just thank God. I don't have to worry about, because the light bill, that next light bill wasn't due until like the first week of August, I believe. But I went on and paid it. It was only $11.03 because God allowed the cooling assistance, that resource, to cover the rest, right? To cover the other 400. So all I had to do was pay $11.03. So I just thank God for that. This past light bill was higher than the light bill before, but it makes sense because my AC has been on. Most times my AC is on nonstop, working really hard, especially with the heat wave we had last week here, right? Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So my AC is just working super hard. So of course the light bill is going to be higher, right? But I just thank God for just providing. I thank God for how he just used that resource to just, provide for me. I'm just so grateful. I can't thank God enough. So yesterday I was able to get my feet done. I had my feet done since February, right? So I was able to get my feet done. God freed my finances up. I didn't have to pay my light bill. I only had $11.03 balance to pay, which I didn't have to pay right now. Could have waited, but I was like, let me just go ahead. It's only 11. And so I was able to get my feet done yesterday, and that's something I had not got done since February, and they definitely needed to be done. So I just thank God I was able to get some self-care done yesterday. I was able to get my feet done and my eyebrows done, and that really was a blessing for sure. So good. He's always providing. He's always providing. And God is just so good. God is just so good. You shall not want. His hand was all over those bills. Yes, for sure. Thanks be to God. Yes, I'm so grateful. So grateful. I'm good, Shanice. It's crazy hot in the United Kingdom right now. Nighttime is a struggle. I'm sure, because I know we had a heat wave last week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So last Thursday was almost 100 degrees, and then Friday, I believe it was like 101 or 102. And then Saturday, which was the 4th of July, it was like 102 outside. I didn't even leave home. I didn't go nowhere on the 4th. I stayed right at home. So yeah, and then the 5th, which was Sunday, it was almost 100 degrees. But yeah, it's cooling off now. Yesterday was in the 80s. Today is like 91, so that's not too bad. And Tuesday I think was like 89 or something like that, and Monday might have been in the 80s or maybe early 90s. But tomorrow it's gonna be 95, so it goes back up a little bit, a little bit. But then the weekend it just go back into the 80s again with rain and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the weather bipolar. That's what I call it. I call it bipolar. It did rain. It literally rained yesterday, and yesterday morning before I left to go get my feet and stuff done, it rained in the morning, and also it rained this morning before I left to go to the rec center to walk my 4 miles. So it did rain. It rained yesterday, today, and it's supposed to rain again later, and it's supposed to rain again the weekend as well. So yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, that was one testimony, but then I also have another recent testimony as well. So for those that are been following my journey, I have been having issues with my washer. So for the month of June, I had mentioned on here that I was having washer issues, which means go to the laundromat, right? So June the 4th was the first washer issue that I had. So that was the first washer issue, and then it was fixed June the 8th, and it was all good to go, right? But then June 19th had the second washer issue number 2, right? So I was at the laundromat June the 6th, June the 20th, and then they came back, the employer came back and fixed it June 25th. Then the same day had washer issue number 3. It was having the same issue that it was having for number 2, washer issue number 2. So June 26th, back to the laundromat. That's 3 times at the laundromat in the month of June. 3 times. I spent $88 and change at the laundromat for the month of June, right? Might as well say almost $100. And so continuing on, that was hard. That was frustrating. It was definitely an inconvenience. It was an inconvenience not being able to, having to go to the laundromat to wash, which means I wasn't washing as often, because normally I'll be washing like 2 to 3 days a week. But since I was going to the laundromat, I wasn't washing as often, right? And so 2 of those times I did have to, I needed financial assistance in order to be able to go to the laundromat and wash my clothes 2 out of the 3 of those times. So yeah. So check this out. God is so good. July the 2nd, which was last Thursday, my new washer was delivered. My brand new washer. So the same person that was fixing it, instead of fixing it this time, they brought me a brand new washer. They took the old washer and they brought me a brand new washer, brand spanking new. And I was just all to pieces. Like literally, when they had left, I was in the living room, and because that's where they brought it at, that's where it's at, because it's the washer that you have to hook up to the sink. Like I think that's a portable washer that you have to hook up to the sink or whatever. And so when the employer left, the washer person left, I just dropped down to my knees. I literally dropped to my knees, and I was just praising and worshiping God. Like I was just so grateful. Like I was in tears. Like it has really been a journey in June when it comes to the washer issues that I was having, and I just thank God. I'm just so grateful, and God is just so good. I'm so grateful. So I was able, Thursday, it was delivered last Thursday. I didn't use it that day. We was in the middle, the heat wave had just started Thursday. So when you have your dryer running, it causes your temperature, your thermostat to go up on your central AC. So it just wasn't going to be wise for me to start, washing and drying on that Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So once Monday came, that's when I went on and started washing. So I had did 3 loads on Monday evening. It was like after 7 p.m. I also say Monday night. I had did 3 loads Monday, and then Tuesday I had did 6 loads. So that's 9 loads, and then yesterday I did one more load. So total of 10 loads, right? But I'm caught up now. I'm caught up now. Next week when I wash, it'll be back to normal. I won't be having 10 loads to wash. It'll be back to normal now. So since I'll be washing regularly now. So I just thank God, So when Lord's willing, I don't have to wash again till Monday. I mean, I do have a little stuff in there, but it's not a lot. It can wait till Monday, right? So yeah, so Lord's willing, Monday I'll be washing again. I shouldn't have no more than like 4 to 5 loads, because I do separate my loads. I'm gonna have at least 2 loads of whites, and then I'm gonna have at least a load of lights and a load of darks. So that's 4 loads. So yeah, I shouldn't have no more than 4 to 5 loads. So I just thank God. I just thank God for just carrying me through that trial last month, for sure. I thank God for carrying me through that trial last month. I thank God for how he provided, so that I was, provide the transportation and the finances. So I was even able to wash at the laundromat. I don't take that lightly or for granted, right? And so, like I said, I had spent $88 and change at the laundromat. And then in the month of June, not that long ago, maybe a week or two, or however long it was, I had went to church, and one of the ministers had put $80. They blessed me with $80, right? And so the same money that I had used at the laundromat, God pretty much gave it right back, because I spent $88 and change at the laundromat, and God used that minister at my church to bless me with $80. So I pretty much got it almost all back, right? So I just thank God. I thank God for carrying me through and just helping me to get through that, right? And now it's, I'm back in, back in business, back to washing at home, back to washing regularly, you know. So yeah, I'm grateful. I've recently got me a laundry basket as well at with a Dollar Tree. I think it was Dollar Tree. Yeah, I recently got a laundry basket, because I was literally just using like trash bags and stuff for my clothes, right? But I was like, let me get me a laundry basket. So I got me a laundry basket from Dollar Tree, and it's pretty nice. It was only like $6, I believe. So everything at Dollar Tree is not a dollar anymore. They need to change the name, to be honest, because everything's not even a dollar anymore. But so I did get the laundry basket. So now my dirty clothes that I currently have are just sitting in there, which is better than sitting in a trash bag. So yeah, I was like, let me get me a laundry basket. So yeah, and then just continuing on, like, God is continuing to just provide for me and just take care of me. And so yeah, so for those that are new to my channel, I've been unemployed since February 18th, 2025. So next week, July the 18th, will be 17 months for me since I've been unemployed. Next month will be a year and a half if I'm still unemployed. But God has not let me go hungry. He has not let me miss a rent, a bill. Like, he's been providing everything I need and more, right? So there is absolutely no lack. There is no lack here. God is taking great care of me. Just today, I got a rejection email today. When I was eating my lunch, I saw it in my email. A job had rejected me, and I got the rejection email. I said, okay, well, at least a decision was made. At least a decision was made. Thank you, Lord. At least a decision was made. So that was nice, because most jobs, they just ghost you, right? So it was nice to get a decision made, right? Because I remember calling that job and checking on my status, and she had took my number and everything down, like she was going to reach back out to me. But I did get that rejection letter today in my email. So like, okay, at least a decision has been made. So it is what it is. That just means that wasn't what God had for me, and he just had something better. But for now, I've been taking a break looking for work. To be honest, I just feel like I'm wasting my time, like, because every door has closed. Like, literally every door has closed. I've even had interviews. Like, I've had interviews last year and this year, and still rejections. So I'm like, maybe it's just time for me to take another pause because, yeah, no doors are opening. So it must just not be time right now. It must just not be God's timing for me to get a job right now because I believe if it was, he would open a door, right? But many doors have closed. Every door has closed to me getting a job. Every door has closed. So I'm just taking a break from looking for work, and really just, seeking God's direction and just see what he want me to do because a job must not be in his will for this season of my life, right? It's been almost 17 months. Every door has closed. Even with interviews, still rejections or ghosted. Some interviews you don't even hear back from, you just get ghosted. And then some of them you do get the rejection letter in your email, right? So yeah, so tomorrow will be a week since I look for work because, like I said, I'm just taking a break. I'm taking a pause from looking for work. I don't know when I'm gonna look again. I may not look again till next month. I don't know yet. So I'm just, praying to see, but I don't know. But I definitely am taking a pause. Yeah. And I just encourage you all, like, it's good to take a pause. Like, if for those that are unemployed and you're looking for work, because it's to the point now where I'm looking for work and it ain't even really nothing out there that I'm even interested in. I'm not even really seeing many jobs that's like apply to me, right? Because I don't want just any job, right? I don't want just any job just to say I'm getting paid, right? I definitely don't want to settle for less than God's best for me. I definitely want to be in his will and I want the job that he has for me. I don't want just any job. Like, I'm not desperate for money where I have to go take any job, and I thank God for that. You know? So yeah, tomorrow will be a week since I look. So yeah, I'm taking a pause. I'm taking a pause for right now. It's not like I'm lacking. God is still constantly providing and just taking care of me. He's providing for me, right? This season has really increased my faith to trust him and depend on him to provide for me, right? You know, increase my patience as well as I continue to wait on God for what he has for me, right? Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it never will. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it never will. You know? So yeah. So yeah. Most times, I think I mentioned before, like most times I'll get vision. Like, well, God would just touch somebody's heart and I'll get a random cash app, or I'll go to church and someone will bless me with some money or whatever the case may be, right? Or someone may a card with money in it, whatever the case may be, right? But then there are times where that doesn't happen. And so that means I have to ask for help, right? And so I do believe that God is really breaking my pride in this season, like really breaking my pride in this season. Because pride isn't just, oh, I think I'm better than you, or you think you better than the next person. A form of pride is just refusing to ask for help as well. That's a form of pride too. Refusing to ask for help when you need help, that's also a form of pride. So I definitely believe God has been dealing with me there. I definitely believe he has been breaking pride off of me. He has been burning pride out of me, right? Burning pride out of me, because it's like this season, it's like you ask for help or you go without. That's what this season is like. Like I said, most times I do get the random provision, but lately it hasn't been all the time. Like, I remember when my wilderness season was kind of fresh, I guess maybe last year in 2024, I remember just getting a random provision, right? But lately it's just been like, I still may get, like, just this past Sunday I got a random cash app. I didn't ask for help, I got a random cash app on Sunday. So the provision is still coming. God is still providing, just like he provided for the Israelites. In the wilderness, he provided manna for them, right? And they had to trust God to provide for them. So the manna is still coming. It's not always random anymore. Like, sometimes it's like I have to ask for help, and it's still God provided, and I still give God the glory, because God allows people to have the means and to have the extra to be able to help, right? So I still give God all the glory, because either way, God provides. Whether it's random and it comes out of nowhere, or whether I have to ask for help, God still provides. So yeah, hi FBA combo. Good to see you as well. It's been, I pray you're well. Hi CB the chosen. I pray you're well. Yeah, pride is a real thing. Pride is a real thing, and just refusing to ask for help, that's a form of pride. That's a form of pride. And so yeah, I thank God for just, really breaking breaking pride out of me in this season, right? Because like I said, in this season, it's like ask for help or go without, so yeah. And it's just not, it doesn't feel good to have to ask for help, right? It doesn't feel good to have to ask for help, because for me, I'm used to just going to God. I'm used to just going to God and asking God to provide for me. And I'm in a random cash app just shows up, or go to church and someone give me some money, whatever the case may be. And so I feel like, I had been expecting God to move in just the same way he's been moving for the longest time. But we can't put God in a box, right? God moves however he want to move, right? And we can't just always expect, we can't always expect, God to move in this one certain way. And so I believe God has been showing me that, like, yes, I provide the random payments, and sometimes I get payments in the middle of the night where I'll literally wake up to a random cash app or whatever, but then there are times where it's like, okay, you need groceries or you need whatever you need, and that random payment ain't came through. And I'm just praying and I'm just waiting on a miraculous payment. And sometimes it just don't happen. Sometimes I have to open my mouth and ask for help. But then there are times once I ask for help, sometimes that's when I start getting random payments. So it's like, yeah, I just never know how God's going to move, right? I just never know how he's going to provide for me. But he always provides. He always provides. Because it can literally be the day, like the last day, and I'm waiting. I ain't asked nobody for help because I'm just waiting on my random payment. I'm waiting on God to send me my manna, my random miraculous payment that I don't have to do nothing for, you know. And then it be like one, maybe it may be Sunday, and I got to go to the grocery store. I'm supposed to go on Monday, and I'm sitting around waiting on a random payment that ain't came yet. So then it's like, okay, this may be the time. This may be one of those times that you may have to ask for help. So yeah, that's right, FB Convo. That's right. Yes, CB chosen. It looks like you can relate. Yeah, I'm sure many can. And I don't think I even knew that it was like, I didn't. I don't even think I knew it was pride, because I'm thinking like pride is like, oh, I think I'm better than you, or arrogance and having a big kid. But no, a form of pride is literally just refusing to ask for help when you really need it. I remember times where I was literally almost out of toilet paper, and I'm just praying and I'm asking God to provide for me, and he would bless me with them random payments. But last year, I was literally out of toilet paper. I ran completely out, and I did not ask for help beforehand because I was just believing God that he was going to bless me with a random payment. That I was going to get a random payment and I was going to be able to go to the store and get my toilet paper. But that did not happen. And I ran completely out of toilet paper. I ran completely out. And so then that's when I asked for help. That's pride. I shouldn't even wait till it gets to, I shouldn't even wait until it gets to that point, right? So yeah, that's pride. Once I asked for help, one of my friends was able to assist me. And then after that, I think that's when random payments came. So it's like, I feel like God may be just trying to see, like, okay, what are you gonna do here? What are you gonna do? Like, so I thank God for just, allowing me to have people in my life where I can ask for help. That's really a blessing, because I'm sure some people, they don't have nobody that can be like, hey, can you help me with my grocery list, or can you help me with this? So it is a blessing to even have that, right? And we're not called to do life alone, right? We're not called to do life alone. And it's okay to need help, right? Because we all need help at some point. We all need help, right? It just doesn't feel good to have to ask for help. And especially when you have to, keep asking. It's not like it's a one-time thing. It's like, okay, a week later, here I go again. Hey, can you help me with my grocery list? Can you assist me here? There may be times where I may have something, but then there may be other times where, I may have some money to like add to it where I don't need all the help. But then there may be other times where I don't have any, where my bank account may be 0 or 50 cents, where I need help with my whole grocery list, right? So yeah, you know. Hey, B Davis, happy Thursday. I pray you're well. God bless you. So just be encouraged, you all. It's okay if you need help sometime. Like, it's okay, because we're human. Like, we all need help, right? We're not called to do life alone, right? You know, it's okay to need help and need support sometimes, right? So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. And I just think about this season. I'm like, I'm just looking forward to the day when, I can be a blessing to others, like, even more. There may be times where I can be a blessing to others, but I want to, I want to be able to do even more. I don't want to be the one always needing the help. And I was talking to a lady at church about this Sunday. I was like, I don't want to be the one always needing the help. I want to be able to give the help. you know I want to be able to give the help. I don't want to be the one always needing the assistance, right? you know I want people to come to me and be like, hey, look, I need money so I can get groceries. I don't got no food, or I need this, I need paper towel, I need toilet paper, I don't got no money, and I don't get paid till this day, or maybe they don't have a job. And I want to be able to just freely be able to give and not have to feel like I'm giving out of my place of need, or giving out of, sacrifice, but actually giving out of my overflow. I believe it's different when we're giving out of our sacrifice, or giving out of our need, like when we're giving, but really we don't have it to give, but our heart is in the right place, right? But we really don't have it, right? We really don't have it, you know, versus giving out of our place of abundance, where we have overflow, we have more than enough, and we're just giving out of overflow, right? So yeah, that we're able to give and not even think twice about it, like, oh, you need groceries, or you need this, okay, here you go, and not have to think twice about it, like, oh, I shouldn't have gave that, because now I'm going to need groceries. But we want to, I feel like it's just different, when we're giving out of our place of need, sacrifice, versus giving out of our overflow, right? So yeah, I'm just looking forward to the day where I can go in the grocery store and see somebody struggling to pay for their groceries and not know how they gonna pay, and here I come. Let me pay that. Let me take care of that for you. Look, I've been where you are. God got you. God loves you. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. you know so yeah, I know this season is not going to be always. It's just temporary. It's not going to be always. And I just thank God for helping me to just be faithful and, steward the little that I have well. You know, I budget, I keep track of every dollar. I know where every dollar go, every cent. And I thank God for that, because it hasn't always been that way. Years ago, back in 2019 and under, I used to be very reckless with my finances, very reckless. And I used to say money burns my pocket. And I was like, I don't even know where my money went. I used to eat out all the time, all the time. 2019 and under, I was eating out all the time. A lot of times every day, sometimes more than once a day. That's where my money was going. It was going on food, you know? And then I also was going to the movies. There would be times, I think there was a time where I literally went to see the same movie twice, paid to see the same movie twice. Like, I was very reckless with my finances back then. I didn't even know where my money was going. I would be like, oh, money burns my pocket. I don't know where my money went. But because I didn't have nothing to really show for it, because I was eating it up, So, yeah, I wasn't really keeping receipts back then, I don't believe either. So I just thank God for just transformation and just helping me to be a better steward over my finances, even in the little that I have. So I just thank God for that, for just helping me to be a better steward over my finances, even with the little. And so I know when God blesses me with much, I'll be able to handle it, because I've been stewarding the little well, right? So we want to make sure that we're stewarding the little well, that we're stewarding whatever God has given us in this season, right? Whether it be finances, whether it be a job, whether it be a house, a car, you know, the gifts that God has given you. We want to make sure that we're stewarding whatever God has given us. We want to make sure that we're stewarding it well, right? We don't want to be praying for more if we're not stewarding well what we have, right? If we're not stewarding well what we have, then we're not ready for the more. We also want to be grateful in the season we're in. We want to be grateful with what we have right now, with our portion in life right now. We want to be grateful for that. Because if we're praying for more, but we're not grateful for what we have right now, what God has already done in our life, then we're not going to be grateful for the next. We're not going to be grateful for the more. So yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. For sure. Yes, 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 CB chosen. Yes, for sure. We're not going to always be comfortable. For sure. We're not going to always be comfortable. Yeah. Sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone, you know, for sure. And just, back to asking for help, like that's stepping out of the comfort zone because, you're vulnerable. You have to have some type of transparency when you're asking for help, right? Because people gonna know why you need help. Why are you asking for this money? What you gonna do with this money? So you got to have some type of vulnerability and some type of transparency to even receive the help. Because some people are not going to help unless you tell them why you need the help. Like, why do you need the money? What are you going to do with this money? you know? So, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. God always provides, He always provides for sure. His word says, I was young and now I'm old, yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken or they seed begging for bread, you know? And so when I look at that, thinking about begging, like, I don't believe asking for help is necessarily begging, like you asking people for help. But I believe like begging would necessarily, to me, begging would be if you're literally on the street and you're holding a sign up and you're begging for money. That would be considered begging. To me, that would be considered begging, right? If you're actually out on the street and you're just holding a sign up and you're asking people for money, every person that walk by, you asking them if they got $1 or however much, right, to be able to help you, to be able to assist you. To me, that's begging. That would be considered begging for sure. God promises to provide for all of our needs, right? His word, Philippians 4:19, and my God shall supply all your needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. So that means it don't have nothing to do with us, has nothing to do with our jobs, our bank accounts, whatever it is that we do, it has nothing to do with that because it's according to his riches and glory. Because we don't have riches and glory, right? Like his word says, Matthew 6:33, seek God first, his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you. So God promises to provide for us, take care of his children, right? Provide for our needs, provide for our needs. So we may not have everything we want, but God promised to provide for our needs, right? And then when we go to his word in Psalm, when it talks about delighting ourselves in the Lord and he shall give you the desires of your heart, right? So that's when we start talking about our wants. But I do believe the desires of our heart has to be aligned according to his will for our life, right? So we want to make sure that we're praying and we're asking God to align our heart's desires according to his will for our life. Because every desire we have doesn't mean it's God's will, right? Some desires we have are fleshly, right? And we want to make sure that we have the right heart posture while we're praying for whatever it is that we're praying for. We want to make sure it's not a selfish prayer, that we don't have, the wrong motive or ill intent behind what we're praying for, right? So, yeah, for sure. So be encouraged, you all. Be encouraged. I know so many people are just dealing with the financial situation. A lot of people don't have a job right now and they're looking for a job, and the job market is not great. It's not great at all. It's not really, yeah, it's not too much to choose from. You don't have that many options. So yeah. But just enjoy the season you're in, right? Enjoy the season you're in, right? And just thinking about just the fact, just being unemployed, like the freedom that comes with being unemployed, right? So much freedom. So much freedom. Like, I'm not tied down to a 9 to 5. I'm not tied down to another employer's schedule. But I get to literally make my own schedule, set my own schedule, have my own routine outside of a 9 to 5, outside of a job, right? I get to take naps during the day. I get to go out and exercise and, walk my 4 miles twice a week. Like, things that I may not have time to do when I'm working, right? So I just thank God for all the abundance of time that I have on my hands. I've been able to build on my relationship with God and study His Word like never before. This season really has been a blessing. It really has been a blessing, for sure. For sure. For sure. It's just, it's, of course, it's been challenging financially, of course, right? But God always provides, right? You know, He always provides. He takes great care of His children. Great care of His children. Be encouraged, you all. Whatever it is that you're facing, just know that you're not alone, that God has not forgotten about you. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. We have to just be patient and trust God's timing, right? We have to trust God's timing for our life and know that God knows best. We may not always understand, but we want to trust God anyway, right? When we can't trace Him, we want to trust Him, right? And know that God has a plan, right? We may not know what the plan is, but the fact that we're still here today is evidence that God isn't finished with us yet, and that our story isn't over yet, right? God is still writing our story. If we're still alive and we're here today, that means God is still writing our story, right? And that He's not finished with us yet. It's not over until God says it's over. He has the final say over our lives. So, yeah. So be encouraged, enjoy the season that you're in. We want to make sure that we learn lessons, whatever lessons that God may be trying to teach us in the current season. We want to make sure that we learn those lessons, right? For sure. For sure. For sure. God is so good. God is so good. We have so much to be grateful for. We want to keep the attitude of gratitude, right? We want to keep the attitude of gratitude. And we want to count our blessings daily. God is so good. God is everything that we need Him to be and more, right? He is such a good, good Father. He is such a good, good Father. Happy Thursday to those that are joining. God bless you. I pray that you're well. So I pray that you all have been encouraged on this Testimony Thursday. I pray that you all have been encouraged. God loves you so much. So I pray that you all enjoy the rest of your beautiful Thursday. God bless all of you.